In step 23 of this Institute of Practical Learning course on self-awareness, we start talking about how you can optimize the learning process, how you can avoid wasting so much time thinking you're learning when you're not, and the basic questions that are needed to qualify inputs for real learning.
I think I'm going to stop there. This is a lot to take in. All of this is happening inside your mind. So when I asked Corbin to talk to me about his self-awareness, he hasn't got all this background. What he has got is things I've tried to, what's called, inculcate into him as I've been doing the videos. But if you have this information and then you watch the videos, you'll be able to see how I am, as I teach him, I'm trying to provide answers to these 10 tests so that when the subconscious guards of entry ask those questions, my information will be let in to one part or the other. Because only by being let in can the person learn. And that's what it's all about, really. I don't know where to write it. I'm going to write it here a bit. I'm going to write here in big letters. Purpose of all this is to learn, and you'll see how, as you learn, you can get better and better yourself about learning the answers to these tests. It's just like if you study for an exam or do past papers for a particular exam. You learn what the examiners are looking for, or in this case, you learn what the subconscious guards of the gate of your mind are looking for, and you get better at having those answers. And that enables you to pass through quickly, and also, in so doing, reach the place you need to in order to learn. And you become a more and more skilled learner, and by becoming a skilled learner, you achieve a process of what's called actualization. And that's where you as a person are fulfilled. Now, if you think I've just made that up, if you check out Maslow, hierarchy of needs, which is a pyramid of different needs, 7 levels. And the top one is actualization. So you can see it. I'll just put an A there. That is that. Okay, so what we're going for is consistent with these kinds of theories, classic theories, is just I'm approaching it in a completely different way, and I believe it's a way that works, because you can watch videos about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I've actually recorded a dialogue with Corbin talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and trying to help him understand it and integrate it into his behavior. So I think it's a good enough point to stop. We are on a journey now together, you and I, towards you using soft skills learning soft skills in order to achieve actualization of your whole being. That's not a bad point to finish on, is it? Good afternoon. Okay, well, in the last video, I was talking to you about the tests that your subconscious mind applies to the inputs that are coming in to decide whether to route that input through to your conscious mind, your unconscious mind, or far more probably just to dump it. It's waste. And there are thousands and thousands of inputs coming in, and nearly all of them, the subconscious mind looks at them and it dumps them into the waste bin. So I don't know whether, strictly speaking, it's 10 tests. We could call it 10 test questions, really. Now, the first area of questioning is the input can either be relevant to your physical well-being or your mental well-being. So it puts it into an appropriate category. Is it mental or physical. So the input comes along and the subconscious looks at it. Imagine we're going back to this model. Here's your gate through into the your mind fortress. And there's this is a gate, and it's got a dude at the dude's there as a guard, or it might have one of these electronic type keypad things with buttons. So if the person coming along, or in this case the thought coming along, actually knows the key code, they can get straight in. Don't have to talk to the guard. So here's all the inputs coming along. These are your inputs. They're coming up to the gate, and they either know the passcode as they come in, or they've got special badge on them. I mean, you can imagine if it was an input to my mind, and this one comes along, and it says, it's got a badge on it which says Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is a singer. I like her music very much. She's a very lovely personality. So, you know, as far as my mental processing, not everything, but pretty well anything to do with Taylor Swift, that's going to go straight in through the gates, not a problem. So one of the tests might be, are you a known source of good stuff? So let's start with that and try over here. One, is it a known source? So this concept of a known source, if it's a known source, it comes with already a score out of 10. Let's score things out of 10. So here's the bottom, this is 0, this is 10, and this gets you straight in. This is 0, you're just going to be out. If the input scores 0, it's out. And this score is called a potential. Now, your actual mind, your physical mind, is an electrochemical system of neurons sending information across the synaptic gap using things called neurotransmitters. Whoa, gobbly, gobbly, gobbly. But the point is, as those neurotransmitters go across the synaptic gap, if they do not achieve a certain level of hits that are relevant to the receiving neuron that's looking at it, then that signal just gets dumped. In order to get through to the next piece of the network, you've got to have adequate level of electrochemical potential in those neurotransmitters as an accumulation. So all I'm doing here with this is I'm taking the way the chemical, physical mind works, and I'm applying the same model to the way your subconscious processes inputs. What I'm doing is using a thing called fractal methodology. In the physical world, people over the last 50 years have discovered the mathematics of fractals. Fractals are a way of writing an equation which applies to the physical world at microscopic levels, but also as you go up, a similar equation can be applied to the shape of things like coastlines. So it scales all the way up from the very small to the very large. And what I'm using is that same approach. I'm saying the way your mind connects up your mental network at that very small level, minute, is similar to the way your mind actually works at a higher scale. So the test questions come in, and the guard at the gate has been told that you let people in when they have an adequate score. So according to the answers to the questions that get asked, so let's say there are 10 questions, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, each of these has an answer. Now, if you get the answer to question 1 right, you're straight in. You get a potential score of 10 out of 10 if you get that first question right, and you're straight in. So if you are anything to do with Taylor Swift and you come with an appropriate quality, your answer is given what's called a tag. So it has a potential, it has a 10 out of 10 potential, and it's also given what's called a tag, which is the guard says, the guard stamps, he or she stamps the entry permit saying this is something to do with Taylor Swift and it comes from a good source. And in it goes. Now, it is going to be subject at the next level of your mind. It's checked because even a topic like Taylor Swift, who can tick a lot of boxes, it still may not be actually what you thought it was. It could be some, horrible person pretending to be Taylor Swift and standing on his head in a bucket of soup and burbling or whatever. Who knows what it is? So it's tagged with highly probable, but possibly needs checking. So according to the source and the tagging and the potential, there is a second level of checking that goes on inside whichever mind receives it, the conscious part of your mind or the unconscious part of your mind. Now I'm going to pause any minute because what I'm talking to you about is what the questions are. Is it a known source? And is it a known subject? So effectively what it is do I trust this source and am I interested in the subject? So in a way, that's two questions, isn't it? It's known source. Number two then is known subject. In other words, is this a subject that my mind at a higher level of what's called intentionality has given an overall instruction to my subconscious? This is the kind of stuff that I want you to be looking for and approving. So it's where's the information, where's the input come from? Do I know it? And is it a subject that I'm interested in? So we're on our way. I've talked about how the answer that is given to that question gives you a certain potential, and you can get in, or it'll be rejected at that point. Now I'm going to pause, and then we'll move on to the next piece because I need to do a little bit of cleaning up here.
These first two questions are about, is it a subject that's of interest to you? And does the information come from a known source? So get out that life workbook of yours and start thinking about what are the subjects that are of interest to you? What kind of job do you have in mind eventually? What kind of industry sectors or area of activity are going to be important to you? And what would be good sources for you to explore on that subject?